Yo! Hello everyone. Welcome. Good evening. I hope you're all doing well. Let's see. Do one of these. Do one of these. Do one of these again. There we go. Hello everyone. Welcome. Hey Hippa. Hey James. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. Hope you're having a lovely Tuesday evening. Time for some Dragon Age. Hopefully, Denerim treats us a little bit better tonight than it did last time. Oof. That was rough. I was worried about the future Dragon Age at the last stream. Oh man. I think we managed to get Denerim to a runnable state this time. At least I got the techniques to be able to run it, so we'll make the best of it. Denim too powerful? It is where Denim is from. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, everyone's had a lovely day. I hope it's been nice and chill. I had a nice day. Nothing too crazy today. I managed to get Keystone Master in WoW. Not Keystone Master, right? No, yeah, Keystone Master, yeah, that's the one. Like 2000 rating or something like that. Just like Denim, I too am too powerful. Had a big lunch, the last couple hours of work was sleepy. That sounds alright, sounds chill. I mean, if you're pretty sleepy, that just that sounds chill. That's it. You gotta be pretty chill if you're almost sleeping. Unless like you're under like some sort of sleepy aggress, like someone's trying to make you sleep, then that might be a little bit more adversarial. In the fringe circumstance. Is that what ASMR is? Is that like some sort of people aggressing to make you sleep? Hypnotized by a wizard. Yeah, that sounds pretty hostile. I hate it when that happens. Trying to get on with my day. Get by with my business. Bang, wizard, hypnotized. I'm sleepy. Let's get in on the game. Let's get cracking. So, I think we managed to do a business in Denver last time. Right? I think we actually are outside the city right now. We like went to... yeah, that's right. I remember now. I don't remember what it's called. Oh wait, it's called Haven. It's up there. So we managed to get to Jenny TV's like lab or something like that in Denerim. And we found out through the research that that's where the Urn of Sacred Ashes is. And we've been requested to seek out the Urn of Sacred Ashes. So that we can help the owl, Leon, to get good, because he's ill, and nothing's curing him. So they're hoping that this holy relic thing, will be enough to save him, and that's maybe here supposedly. I guess we'll find out.
What are you doing in Haven? There's nothing for you here.
Oh yeah, pay no mind to the horrible textures. That's just something we had to do in order to make Denerim run okay. Very well. Excuse me.
You may trade for supplies at the shop if you wish. Then I suggest you and your companions leave.
I suggest we tread carefully here. Something is amiss.
Something's not quite right.
Quiet, insular communities. There's always something nasty going on behind closed doors.
You always think there's something nasty going on behind closed doors.
That's because there often is. I hope it involves chains. I hope they ask me to join in.
Well, if they had nothing to hide, then why would they have doors, right? If you didn't want to, if you had weren't up to no good, then you would have to hide what you were doing in your house with a door, of course, and walls. But perfectly legitimate citizens here, up to all good,
come.
We don't need doors.
Tell us where you've been. Were you up, were you down? Chasing rabbits around the town. Come, Bonnie Lynn. Tell us where you've been. Come, Bonnie Lynn.
I'm trying to read chat here, boy. Are you gonna keep doing that?
It is warm. It will shelter from the storm. Come, Bonnie Lynn. We've a bed to put you in. Dear Bonnie Lynn, sleeps the peaceful crib within. A mossy stone, a finger bone. No one knows but Lynn alone.
Are you quite done yet, boy?
Sleeps the peaceful crib.
Child? There we go. Yeah, that's the other thing we fixed. So I didn't just reduce the texture resolution to basically nothing. To the point, yeah, it does quite look like Skyrim, doesn't it? Actually, that's kind of an insult to Skyrim. Wait, hang on. Yeah, no, Skyrim was definitely after this, right? Definitely after this. Like, Skyrim definitely looks better than this. But yes, apparently the executable file this game comes with only allocates like 2 gigabytes of RAM. Like, if you use more than that, if you need more than that, the game just breaks, and I think that's why Denerim doesn't work, basically. I don't know why it works like the way it does, but I did get another executable, which supposedly lets me use like 4 gigabytes of RAM or something like that.
Who are you? You shouldn't be here.
That's twice the RAM. Do you know Brother Genitivi?
Who? Why would you come here looking for someone? Lowlanders don't belong here.
Okay.
What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Because you're being a weirdo. I bet you're a clever boy. What do you know about Haven?
It's just Haven.
I guess... I can't quite tell if that was a success of persuasion or not. I can't tell. I have no idea. That may or may not have been an actual persuasion. I mean, he did tell me what the deal with Haven was. Oh, also, it's a place that has death root growing inside the village. It's probably a good sign. Haven equals Haven. Yeah. I mean, it's tautological, but it's also correct. Mirror to you too, fella. Book.
Here I am.
No, you're not a book. Although I guess you kind of sound like the book in It Takes Two of Us. So maybe you were right to say, here I am. Because I did refer to a book. So what am I actually looking for? I guess I'm just going inside people's houses. I mean, we'll just see if there's anything they're hiding in there. Let me know how the audio is, by the way, if there's anything I need to change. I can get right on that. A love letter. Do I really need to read that? Oh, it just like adds on to this thing here. There's just a lot of love letters apparently in the game, and I just have like a file, like a collection of love letters. Just creeper behavior. Oh my god, the graphics are so bad. This also appears to have been used recently. A pool of blood remains, running over the sides in dark rivulets. What the hell is rivulets? What does that mean? I've never heard a word ever. Rivulet. Is that like a sort of pattern of staining? Right? I guess it's something like that.
I wonder. The crows often made sacrifices of blood, and it gave them uncanny abilities.
Yum yum yum. Tasty.
This village is not quite what it seems, is it?
Something's not quite right. Oh, hello. Another chest. Studded leather armor for a stud. I'll take that. Don't need it though. No. No. I need a hat more than anything. Studded leather hat. What about Zevran though? He's got a tier 4. What the heck? The hell? Hang on. Studded helmet. Is that actually what I need? Oh, it is what I need. Do they look the same? No. Very slightly different. You can have this hat. Nice. Are you studded as well? You're not studded, but the hat doesn't actually go into the set, so it's fine. A rivulet is a small river. Oh, I see, yeah. Okay. So small as it could just be someone spilling something, I guess, on the table. That's a lot of cultists. Go and get him. There's gonna be a lot of micro because I have so many rogues. Oh, I still need offhand, don't I? Yeah, I do. No, I will not change my comedy party. We will stick with this comedy party for a little while. Stop that. Even though I'm here, I'm stealthed, I'm invisible. You can get me. You can't get me. There I am. No! How do you miss an archer? I can't see you. Man, these guys are really bad. They like really. I don't know what even attacked me. Like, did some of them even have weapons on them? These peasants here, I don't think they were even armed. Honestly, it's kind of overkill having you win here. I should be bringing Liliana for the full rogue party.
Changed your mind yet? Are you willing to speak seriously?
No.
Of your bosom, as you wish.
No, I do not wish to speak of my bosom.
But it is a marvelous bosom. I have seen women half your age who have not held up half so well. Perhaps it is a magical bosom? Strange. A perfect little village, no?
Don't change the subject. We were talking about Wynn's bosom. Coward. Okay, there's more fellas. They haven't even seen us having combat? Oh, wait, let's do this. Listen. Zevron is just saying. Zevron is just saying what they're all thinking. Win big booba. We were all thinking it. We can now get past it. Man, remember when like people were praising BioWare like writing for being like sort of being industry leading and stuff like that? How bad was video game writing in the 2000s? Oh my god. The dialogue in this, it's honestly startling sometimes. The state of it. Oh man. Ooh, a chance of paralysis. Another one? Time for some enchantment. This is literally the best game too. I know, right? Like, what am I gonna feel when I go to like Mass Effect? How's that gonna make me feel? That's what I'm really curious about now. I do want to play Mass Effect again at some point. I did get like the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect at some point. I think that's 1, 2, and maybe 3, right? I got that at some point, like Prime or something. So got a little free copy, free. Ooh! Oh my god! What is this? Jesus! Hang on, is that bow enough to make Liliana viable? It's pretty good. It was just in the chest. It's a full trilogy, nice. I've never played Andromeda. I'm curious about Andromeda. Oh, I am the master of unlocking.
Yes.
Yes! The armor and clothing left on this dismembered man. It indicates something. indicated he was from Redcliffe, one of the Earl Eamon's knights. Oh, frig. Yeah, so this guy was trying to find the urn, and he friggin' died. Well, he shouldn't have gone here alone. The fool. Oh, no, that was probably a cultist. That was like taking the place of Jenny TV in Denrim as well, right? I really hate the way the combat works in this. That like, your guys are in combat before the enemy's combat. That just doesn't make any sense to me. This just bothers me. Like, I see an enemy, I'm like, they haven't noticed me, and yet I am stuck in combat now. It's like, what? Hang on, what if I run away though? Does that put me out of combat? I don't know if it actually does. I can even, yeah, okay, you can kind of, it's weird, you run away from no one. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, like Andromeda I'm very curious about. Never played Andromeda. I've never even seen Andromeda. I just know Andromeda is kind of jank. I'm sure there are things to like in Andromeda. And I'm sure there's more things to laugh about, but I'm sure there's something to like. I believe they might have improved some things post-launch in Andromeda. I mean, I hope they did. But I'm curious about it, just because I never played it. It's something different, at least, but yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard, yeah. Really annoying too, because it plays nice in the vacuum, but the writing is stinky and all the content's boring. So yeah, like, I think I've heard that, like, the gameplay of Andromeda is alright. I mean, all the Mass Effect games are pretty fun, right? At least, like, 1 isn't, like, the most fun one to play in terms of mechanics, but, 2 and 3 are very fun, and I think Andromeda, like, builds on that. Dog. Doggone it. These cultists are terrible. I don't understand why I had to like clear 2 full areas basically in order to get to this place. And they're all chumps. They're all chumps. They got nothing to them. Like, surely in the challenger here, there's gonna be a spooky little fellow. Just a little guy, just a littlest guy who's gonna mess me up.
We are blessed beyond measure. We are chosen by the holy and beloved to be her guardians. This sacred duty is given to us alone. Rejoice, my brethren, and prepare your hearts to receive her. Lift up your voices and despair not, for she will raise her faithful servants to glory when her... Ah, welcome. I heard we had a visitor wandering about the village. I trust you've enjoyed your time in Haven so far?
Yeah, people aren't very welcoming.
What sort of welcome do you expect when you break into our homes uninvited?
I mean...
This is why we do not like visitors.
He's got a point.
They are not like us. They will do us harm if we let them.
He does have a point. I did break into the homes. But the doors weren't locked, right? Sorry, I was just exploring.
Exploring? Well, perhaps you should have done your exploring elsewhere, and not in our homes.
Oh my god, you're gonna kill me for that? Eric! With a K?
Yes.
Get him, dog. No. Put me. There we go. I didn't know where I was when I was. Didn't follow my guy. Yeah, like, oh, this feels so weird. This feels so strange. Can any of you give me a dagger, please? It's gotta be some duplicitous fellow over here. Got him. This it really did not have to go this way, you know. Really did not have to go this way. You were. I was just vibing in here, exploring home, seeing what Haven can offer me, and you try to attack me, and I said no, and then you try to kill me after I kill all of you. It's just messed up. Ring of Faith. 5 damage. That's not bad. If I had a fire spell, I don't know. I guess I can sell that vase. Yeah, Forspoken's come out. Looks very funny. Looks. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I think it looks fine. Like I kind of get what they're going for. It's just not for me. I think. Hello. Oh, it's Brian J TV. Hello.
Who are you? They've sent you to finish it.
Finish what?
Me. Finish me off.
Very forward now, aren't we? He's even in position. Would you like me to?
While I would like the pain to stop, I would prefer it if death were not involved. My name is Genetivi. I am a Chantry scholar, and, well, some would say treasure hunter. But that was back in the good old days. Days like today really show me how much age has caught up with me.
So you're saying that you've fallen. Can you get back up? I already know it's back in Dunnerum.
So it seems. They take great pains to keep it well hidden. The leg's not doing so well, and...
Oh no, it's me.
And feel my foot.
Hey, Wynn, can you help?
I can set the leg and ease some of the pain, but he'll need a lot of rest in order to heal.
I don't have time to rest now. I'm so close. The urn is just up that mountain.
How do you know?
My research led me to Haven, and I have heard the villagers talking. I know the urn is here. Haven lies in the shadow of the mountain that holds the urn. There is an old temple there built to protect it. The door is always locked, but I know what the key is. Ivric wears a medallion that opens the temple door. I've seen what he does with it.
This medallion?
Yes, that is your key. Take me to the mountainside, and I will show you.
Alright, let's leave now.
Good. Help me up here. I'll try not to slow us down.
Oh no, wait, freak. I wanted to explore the room. I didn't think that was gonna happen. Well, it's fine, whatever. For example, has the word beautiful taken from a larger quote that said the game had the potential to be a beautiful story-telling game. That is always so funny, actually. I cannot fault them for the hustle grinds it. That's like that one movie that like got a bunch of 5-star reviews. So they had like a poster that was just like all of the 5-star reviews they had, and like the whole poster is basically just like stars, right? And there's like 2 characters in the middle, and they happened to get one review that there was like 2 stars, which is a pretty poor score. But they put the 2-star review between the 2 characters, so it kind of just looks like it's a 5-star review.
Here we are. Give me the medallion, and let's see if I remember. Yes, you see, it can be manipulated, just like this. And there. A key to open the way.
Now what?
Now, where does this go?
Inside. Hair looks so terrible in this.
Oh, what I would give to have seen this hall in all its splendor, as it was meant to be.
Yes, in higher texture quality at least.
Snow and traces of beauty remain.
What would it look like in higher graphics? We may never know. We can't afford to linger.
I'm sorry, what? I was a little distracted, I apologize. These carvings were created just after Andraste's death, and they may reveal things about her life that we do not yet know. I think I need more time to study these statues and carvings.
That might keep you out of trouble for a bit.
I could not keep up with you with my injuries. I should be safe. I don't think there are any villagers here. Go. I will be all right. Perhaps my destiny was only to lead you to the urn.
Try not to get in trouble.
I'll be right here if you need me.
I'm sure you won't turn into a boss fight or anything when I come back. I'm sure you won't. Let's see, book. I'm off. Were you always hang on, why is he like an elite guy? He's injured. Maybe he's an injured elite guy. Maybe that's how it works. Adventurer.
Yes.
What has he got? At least an arrow for me, right? Sealed letter. Wow, codex. Oh, thank you. Oh, hang on. This might be important. Nope. It does not. Highly unimportant. Oh my god. Let's just call this again. Nope. They don't have weapons! They don't even have weapons! Why? Why are you fighting me? Stop it! Just give me the experience points and go home. I've got my inventory is full as sec. Now, have you heard the absolutely wild, like, WoW news that come out from NetEase in China? they have a licensing partner in China called NetEase. So, I think if you're like a foreign game publisher, in order to get your game like in China, to like sell it in China, distribute in China, I think you have to have a local, like a publisher there. Like handle it for you. So in order to have like Chinese WoW servers, you need to have a Chinese publisher in China like handle that. So they had NetEase for that. And recently, I guess they had a bit of like a some sort of disagreement, a little business chicken with NetEase and Blizzard. And they didn't want to use NetEase anymore, I guess. And they cut him out of the deal. And NetEase did not enjoy that, and they especially did not enjoy when Blizzard came back and was like, actually, we might need you guys for like a little while longer, like 3 months. Is that cool? They did not like that, so they live streamed the employees there, like tearing down the offices and like trashing the big statue outside. There was like a massive, like an axe statue, like outside offices. It's like an orc axe statue, and they like tore it down. And I'm also hearing that the employees that participated in tearing down the axe statue were rewarded with like a special drink. I guess like NetEase is a pretty big company, and they also do like has like a cafe or something. As well as like video game publishing, and they're doing a new drink called like Blizzard Green Tea, and apparently green tea is like a slur in Chinese for like duplicitous people you can't trust, like two-faced people. It's just so wild. That's like actual like reaction to like a business thing, you know. Oh my god, that armor is pretty good. Silverite, heavy armor. I want that. You can keep the chainmail boots. What do I get rid of? What do I get rid of? I should be throwing these bombs and shit. It's been a while since they got me like any sort of inventory upgrades, I feel. Thank you. No, I'll do. Based on NetEase, the motherfucker Blizzard? Yeah, but, like, it sounds like Blizzard would definitely try to screw over NetEase, right? Like, There's, I guess this might be like a Chinese idiom, but I find it just so beautiful. That is described it as Blizzard riding on a mule and looking for a horse. It just sounds so... Oh my god, that's a Bronto! Like riding on a Bronto and looking for a horse. But yeah, like, I'm sure these are both like companies that kinda suck. But I cannot blame Netties for being mad. I don't think. Like we know the sort of stuff Blizzard tries to do. I mean, like right after this happened, there's been like another Blizzard kerfuffle, like again, of like there's this one employee now that's like quit after he was basically forced to like give poor employee reviews or something to like hit quotas. Like it's just never ending with Activision Blizzard, man.
Crap, so simple to see, really.
Got him. Yeah, employee rankings, yeah. That's pretty shit. Not gonna lie. It's not very pog. Oh, hang on. Someone's actually getting hurt. I guess it's this guy, this Reaver guy. It's fine. Like the funny thing here as well with like these guys being such chumps is that I feel like I'm really not sending my best in here. Like I got like a comedy party here, and they're just, oh, we can't deal with this. Can you have like more dogs, please? The dog isn't even attacking him; it's just growling and barking at people. Man, Wynn needs to work on mana management. She's like, after every fight. Ancient texts. I'll definitely read those. All right. Hello? Almost interesting. I don't know what Alistair uses, man. I don't know. I can drop this though. Get out of here. This axe is potentially good. Oh, it's at least better than that. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna destroy that and so I can take this. Boom. But there was also Mason there that looked kind of dubious. I could have just replaced that. I love this. I can just look through the wall. I can just see the whole map, like very easily. That's great. I mean, this place looks kind of huge. It's kind of a big map. Oh my god, it's a wizard! Oh my god, that's horrible. They just bursted the hell out of me, man. They got so many stuns! Dude, this wizard is kicking my ass. Oh my god, dude, this wizard! Never mind. They got 2 wizards out and suddenly it's fucking impossible. Dude, how many fucking AoE frost spells do you have that I can't fucking move? I feel like I haven't been able to make an action in like so long. Please. I just wanna act. Oh my god, hang on. I think we're just loading. Shit, how far back am I? Well, it's fine, whatever. Not too far back. Alright, so always quick save, I guess, because they might just have 2 wizards spamming Winter's Grasp, and you just die, and there's not much you can do about it. I was just about to say, like, for like being cultists, you shouldn't have a lot of wizards. I figured that was like kind of the thing, right? Like, at least have a few warlocks or something. That was rude as hell. I don't think my Winter's Grasp works like that. Where like you can just AoE an entire party and like they're all stunned for like 3 seconds. Like all of them. It's pretty messed up. Oh, there's so much fucking combat, dude. It's kind of numbing how much combat there is in this game. I totally fucking forgot about it. It's like an action game. It's like I'm playing fucking hack and slash. Stop that. That's right, win is here now, so I can backstab. Thank you for coming in and being some sort of melee wizard win. If Jenna TV didn't just like send me into this room, I probably would have changed my party, I think. Very likely. I would never have sent in my clown gang if I didn't misinterpret the urgency of the option I selected. Right, I'm friggin' saving before every door now because I know that like if I open a door, it's just gonna be a freaking clown bus in there with like cultists, which is fine most of the time, but sometimes it's gonna be friggin' wizards, and they just destroy you instantly. Because wizards are like, I feel like really broken in this game, like really broken. Like not just like enemy wizards or anything, but just all wizards, like your own wizard as well. They're just so broken. There's no excuse not to use them really. Nice, Evan.
So simple to see, really.
This is a good opportunity to use a bomb, I think. How about this freeze bomb? Whee! I can make bombs with poison making, right? So I kind of like them. After using a couple now, I'm like, dude, these bombs are sick. Oh, someone freaking died. That wasn't supposed to happen. Hang on, let's bring them back. Injury kit. There we go. No harm done. I have 18 injury kits, so I can take a few deaths. No problem. It's also like definitely my fault that Zevran died though, because I did bomb him. I was just having so much fun bombing people. Do not clip that. Yonk. No, I don't want that. Sure, take that one. No, oh, you can do that. I didn't realize you can inspect things. That's the friggin' wizard room. Let's just wait here. Wow, that explains a lot, seeing us. That's a lot of wizards. Go like in this room, I think. Boink. How did the wizard get in there? How did you? Oh my god, there's wizards freaking everywhere. There's so many wizards, dude. Or they're teleporting. I feel like they might be teleporting, I'm not sure. Like, I can't actually count of many, but they are everywhere. They must be teleporting. No, there's 3 of them. There's definitely 3 of them. Freaking kill them, dude. Oh my god. You can't do anything to wizards, they just stun you. Stop it! Fuck me, dude. I hate those wizards. They're so shit. Oh yeah, I can probably use like separate acid flask as well. Dude, Winter's Gloves is so broken. It's so broken! I hate this. So, okay, wizards are just like, are they actually, oh no, they are wizards here as well. That's why there was so many friggin' wizards. Oh my god, this is shit. This fucking sucks. Oh my god, there's so many of them. And if you pull this room, you pull that room. That's why this was so horrible. Fuck me, that sucks. That's unbelievable. No, stay there. Unbelievable. How? They just triggered to do that, I guess. When you enter the space. They don't even see me. Fuck you. You can throw bombs and stay stealthed. Wait a second, this changes everything. I'm gonna become a stealth bomber, dude. But you can make poisons, right? Oh, but you can't make bombs. You can't make bombs. Who makes bombs? Win, you make bombs. No, she doesn't make bombs. Are bombs a trap? Bombs wouldn't be a trap, would they? Oh, trapping is auto detection. I don't know, man. I don't know what bombs are, but I want them. I want more bombs. I want to just have like infinite bombs now and just fucking sneak around and throw stink bombs at people. That's my new build. That's where we're heading. That's the goal. I don't need that. Just stay there. Oh, now you're gonna aggro. Okay. Pretty sure there's one more wizards. Oh, but this one has no idea. These wizards up here, they had all idea. They knew exactly what was going on. These other ones, this one here, he has no clue. He lacks critical information. Hang on, why aren't I stealth anymore? Oh my god, no, please. Alright, split up. We go there. No, dog, stay there, you're fine. Oh, hang on, the wizard doesn't even like... This wizard still doesn't know we're here. Why are we missing? Is it this hex? Can only hit on critical effects? Oh my god. Okay, that hex is horrible. Sheesh. That's gonna be my life mission to not get that hex on me on. I don't know if I even have like a dispel. This is looking a lot like a Hitman playthrough right now. All I need is like all these people to be stuck in the bathroom instead of this hallway. Now we gotta level up. How does that help me now? I'll take some cunning, yeah. Now help me out here. So I was led to believe for a long time that this is coup de grace. Is this actually coup de grace? Do I need sweep? Nah. This is a sustained thing, I don't need that. Cannot do backstabs, get the frig out of here. Get the heck out of here. Oh, I do need master combat training soon. Have enough dex though. I don't want any of this stuff. I don't want it. I guess getting this stuff here is pretty good. Feign death? Feign... What would you want feign death when you have stealth? Excuse? I don't see it. I guess you have two of them. That's nice, I guess. I'll take that. I'm not taking any chances with mages anymore. They are so oblivious, man. Got him. That's why you get two rogues. One of them will always backstab if you have two rogues, right?
Yes.
I do need a gift. I should get his gift. Just get rid of like something here. Just don't go here. Let's get rid of that again. Excellent.
Yes.
Yes. That is gonna be a nasty room, isn't it?
Going.
No, it's fine. It's fine. In fact, there might be nothing in here. Arrow of filth. These arrows are gonna be pretty good at some point when I decide I'm gonna use a bow now. I think these are like what justifies using a bow, right? It's kind of how it felt when I had these styles of items in like other games like Divinity, you know. We just never used those like special arrows for bows, and then we had a ton of them in the end, and then we had so much of them that like any encounter was just trivialized because of magical arrows. Get rid of this one, yeah. Get the heck out of here. It's just tier 3, I don't want that. I got a key from that, so I guess that's me done with that area. Oh my god, this blood. So much. I'm guessing I can't go in there yet. Oh, I want that slow rune. I want it. I want it. I have to get rid of something though. Can anyone equip like a amulet or something? Oh, there's a ring. Sure, probably I can equip on someone. Yeah, you take this ring. This fire ring. There you go. Surely one day I'm gonna give a win like fireball or something. I mean, at some point, I just have nothing else to spec into, right? Oh my god, I almost skipped this armor. Oof. What do I not need? Ugh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess this mole here is actually kind of crap. It's tier 2, I don't want that. It's a regular mace, get rid of that. Let's take that. Cool, leave that other thing. Ugh. Hate having to leave all this stuff behind. I just want to sell it. I don't think I get that much money in return from it though, so it's fine. I can knock this door now though, right? I got a key. Key required? I think there might have been a place downstairs here I got a key for. Yeah, like, is it south, I think? What the heck? So many guys. Is there a wizard here? Yes. I think it makes sense to just take out the wizard. But if we both backstab her at once, she dies, right? Not quiet, but close. Because in situations like this, it would be nice to have feign death. But like, stealth has such a low cooldown anyway, right? Like, what's a cooldown on it? 10 seconds! You almost always will have a stealth up, you know? Like, you can even do shenanigans like that where you just juggle people back and forth because stealth just goes back up. Yum yum yum. Give me those potions, yes. I don't need it. Oh, there's so much stuff. I guess the obvious solution to all this stuff is just to not pick up the stuff. Just leave it behind, it's fine. Is willpower gives me all my mana? It is. Carla kept telling me that like willpower is bad and stuff, but like, is it though? I mean, mana seems like a pretty good deal, though, right? But like, particularly if you're a healer, you'd like more sustain. Like, it's one thing to just like fully heal someone, but you gotta fully heal someone like many times. You're not like overhealing doesn't help you at all, right? So at a certain threshold, you're gonna want more mana rather than more healing. Whatevs. We'll do some more mana for a while until I'm definitely just, you know, overhealing someone. Mass rejuve. Oh. Yeah. That's a way to get some mana regen. Absolutely. How's your tactics looking now? Whatever. 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 I don't want to mess around with it. Not now. I guess I'll manually cast Mass Rejuve. Mass Rejuve does sound really nice. I don't think it's particularly useful for Padre right now. I feel like I don't have the abilities that need that much mana. Other than on Win, like on Wizards. Like with recurrent party, it's just like whatever. I guess my dog can use his bark box more. No thanks. Sure. Oh, fuck me. Well, no thanks then, I guess. Yes. Big room. That's gotta be sketchy as hell. Can dogs open doors? They can. Nice. It's just a very good dog, okay? Very, very good dog.
Oh, I would love to spend a day here.
Nerd. Ha! Read. You reckon peasants made fun of people for being nerds if they were bookish back in train times? Or was this like, oh, that guy? Is it like how people treat people looking at movies now? I don't know. Oh, I need to get rid of some of these gifts, man. I have too many gifts. I have too many gifts. I mean, that is actually the real reaction, isn't it? That like, if someone did read a lot of books, they'd be like, yeah, this guy's a big deal. He went to school. This guy got an education. Well, la-dee-da. Well. Mr. Fancy over here. He knows how to read. Say it ain't so. Main hall key, eh? I believe that. Oh, hang on. Isn't this the room my boy was in? Is he dead yet? He's fine. He's just hiding, I guess. I hate the bars in this game, man. I hate how messy they are. I should use some poisons as well. That's a good way to clean up my inventory a bit. Alright. Stealth. You're already stealthed. Open the door. Get on the floor. Everyone do the dinosaur. This doesn't seem ominous at all. It seems fine. You can hold position. Group up, group up. There we go. What do we have up here then? Wizard. Is this just a bunch of wizards? Archer? Oh, the archers are fine. Who cares? I guess we assume wizard killing positions. Like this. No! AoE stun! Gross! What the heck is that? Raves? Oh my god. Stop that. I hate when the player you're controlling doesn't like move. You have to like tell them to move. I hate it. I just wanted to have the same AI as my party members. But now I have to actively play as one of them? Gross. I can't believe there's a stance in this that negates your backstabs. I don't buy that at all as anything viable. If you're playing a rogue, you better Like, all these backstabs. They do so much damage. There's no way anything else is worth it. There's no way. So good. I swear, like, most enemies die in, like, 6 backstabs. Like, most things. Main problem just seems to be the aggro. Like, you seem to just, like, generate a crazy amount of aggro. Amount of backstabbing. Like, people just don't like being backstabbed. Can I disarm traps while stealthed? Oh, sick. That's so nasty. Just gonna do this before I engage them. These guys actually look like they have armor and stuff on. What the heck? You can't do that. Leg hole trap. This is all where all the traps went from that one village. They all went to this shitty little ruin here. Explains everything. Any other traps? Oh, ballista. But no one's like... Oh, no, that's rigged to traps, isn't it? I see. I think this is strat. You... Are they coming? You run in a dog. No, 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 stop, stop, stop. Oh, oh. There we go, and then they start attacking, and then you backstep. I'll also use some poison this, so why not? Like, they instantly just turn around, like, every time. I mean, to be fair here, like, no one else had, like, generated any aggro. But I feel like that's a consistent experience of, like, I run up to, like, a guy that's being tanked by Alistair. I do some backstabs, and he's, like, immediately just turns around and negates me out of spite, almost, I think. Oh my god, I can't get any runes ever. I'm just not allowed. I'm just being denied. Please. Fuck, get rid of this shields then. Get out of here. I'll keep that one for now. The inventory management is definitely a massive pain in the ass on this one, man. Alright, I'm thinking before we move on, I'm just gonna drop a save in this room here. And we'll take a little break before we see what's through the next door. But, spoiler warning, I think there might be another random encounter through that door. I bet you it might be some cultist. Maybe a few cultist archers, maybe one of them is a wizard. Maybe. I mean, who's to say? I don't know. Alright. Be right back, everyone. See you in a minute. Or two. Choom. Hello. I'm back. Welcome back. To everyone else that are also back. Like me. Like me. Ah, let's open the door. What's the worst that could be behind here? About half a dozen wizard. I think that would be the worst thing that's behind it. Let's do this. Hold position. Walk on through. Walk on through. Okay. Oh, a saving game for me. Thank you. Which means if I interact with the altar here, it's just gonna spawn a bunch of skeletons, right? Hello. Ancient elven gloves. I starting to feel quite bad about not picking up some of this armor, man. There's just so much. There's just so much. And I don't even know what's like clog up my inventory, you know? Other than like, I guess gifts. Gifts is like a big thing. That's like make my inventory like clogged up. Let's see. I can maybe clear up something that's in my party right now, because I think Win likes books, right? So we can get rid of some of those. Let's see. Do you like this discovering dragons but Persians thing?
A generous gift.
She loves it.
Thank you ever so much.
Alright, now I'm stuck. I think there's someone that likes this jewelry stuff, like this small gold bar. But I can't think of who. I can't think of them. I don't suppose Zevran likes this. Maybe not. I thought it was like an elven set of boots, but it doesn't say anything on it. So maybe not. Also have some alcohol. I don't know who would like alcohol. And I have some gems that I just need to sell. Oh, locket. I don't know who that could be for. That sounds like it would be a quite personal gift though, like someone might actually want that. This hat here, is that even good for anyone actually? Maybe I'd prefer if you wore this cameo cowl. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't want to destroy them, I don't know. Tier 2 boots. I can destroy that. Get out of my inventory. Okay. Nothing? What if I send in dog? Woof woof. There we go. Yeah, see, like, immediate just pivot to attack the backstabbers. Oh my god, that's a mage. Is that another mage? That could be a mage, I can't tell. I'll just fight here for a little while until I can stealth. Well, that is most assured a mage that hit me with a fireball at least, I can say that much. Did it come from here? I think it did. Oh my god. No, that's an archer. Must have come from this tool here. You can't see me! What are you doing? You can't see me! Oh my god. Oh, this hurts. What is that? Leap? Oh, that stun lasts for so long! So who actually needs like feign death is my wizards. Like, if I could feign death on my Morgan right now, not Morgan, Win right now, that'd be fantastic. Oh my god. Dude, this mage is kicking my ass. Horatio, can you do anything worthwhile, please? Oh, I can't believe this, that the mage messed me up so bad, man. That was horrible. Actually, no, I can fully believe it. It's totally the expected outcome. Oh, come on. You didn't even see I was here. Oh, I should get that like extra damage against incapacitated targets. I think that'd be really strong. But I'm scared of it. I can't pronounce the name of it. I can't pick something I can't pronounce the name of. No, I'm pretty sure. No one's gonna shame me if I say coup de grace. No one's gonna shame me for that. That's what everyone says. Much like how, like, I went out to actually like learn the pronunciation of Béarnais, and no, Béarnais, and now everyone just makes fun of how I say it. I was like, how do you actually pronounce the name of that sauce? I don't know. Turns out it was not worth learning how to say it. Because people here just say Béarnais, which is definitely not how you say it. But if you say anything else, people are gonna be like, what did you just say? What did you just call that? Oh my god. Owie. Stop that! No, stop it! Ow! Fucking hell. I did not expect that fireball to hit me there, man. Oh, he's leaving. That's nice. Because the door's full. So you can't fireball us. Why did it just stand still sometimes like that, man? I hate it. Like, what are you doing right now? There we go. Sheesh. Like, I'm pretty sure I have your AI set to do stuff. You can open doors, right? You can, good. Alright, where's the wizard? I'm not gonna get fireballed again. I think they probably will refuse to fireball themselves, right? I think that would be career suicide if they did that. Got him. See, the benefit of the setup I have here is that if they do turn, oh my god, it's a mimic? I don't know if that counts. Like, if they do spin around because like backstab generates a lot of aggro, then there's another guy behind that can still backstab. These aren't all gonna do this, are they? You do rejuve yourself, don't you? Yeah, you do. Nice, that's nice. Got so much CC effects. Not a mimic, just a guy in a chest. I agree. If it's just a guy in a chest, that does not count as a mimic. I think they're both valid. But they're not the same. Like, I am all for guy in a chest. That's very funny. Oh my god. How many times is it gonna take it to teach me this lesson? Is it one more demon every time I don't learn? Stop! Fuck! How many fucking stuns do you want? All of them, I guess. Wait, what? How are you alive? What? Hey, wait, she died, right? Wait. Hold up, I thought she died. Did I manage to actually hit the potion? I was convinced I fucking died there, dude. Shit, he died though. This guy here is a pain in the ass. Ugh. Alright, none of us have injuries, good. At least we're leveling up. All these demon kills. How's the inventory looking? Hey, 2 slots. This one though. This one's gonna have the beans. But I'm gonna stealth my rogues and put them over here, and then Horatio can have the honor of opening the chest. Oh frig, I need lockpick, got that. No! Sure, we got a mole. Wow, mole, nice. I'm gonna take this Viridium mole all the way to Viridium City. Are you holding position? Yeah, good.
Saving the day.
Okay, you're holding position, good. Excellent. I think the dog dog plus win can hold on. Although dog doesn't seem like it wants to tank very much. He always just lets Vin do all the work every time. Like I desperately need a Feint Devil win, man. Dude, the guys that have two-handed weapons, they can't actually hit you if you just walk. The animation's so long. Dog level? Level for dog? Dog got more strength. Oh wow, another tactic slot for my dog. So they can bark, growl, they can chuff, other dog behaviors.
And her betrayer.
I don't think dogs even chuff actually, I think that's cats. Yeah, dogs don't chuff, they just are chuffed. Worming lair? No, I don't want to go there. Oh, I can't also. There we go. Fuck me. I guess I don't think I have had enough movement speed to climb up the staircase. Oh, nice! See that? I guess there's two ways in here. I wonder what could be in here, in this wormling lair. No, fuck me. Cultist Overseer. Sure. None of them are wizards or archers. I should go in here just to check. Well, well, well. Wizards, eh? I guess this counts as a backstab, yeah. So it's dirtified and it's a stun, right? Yeah, okay. This guy span around before he got stunned, that's rude as hell. Whoa, 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 why are you just letting him walk away? I'm baffled and confused. Oh, they aggroed as well. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Dude, the dog is so fast. I might have made a mistake. No, this is fine. I'm gone. I'm out of here. No, 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 no. Oh, no, I do need a healer guy. Can you person that, please? I don't suppose a dog can throw bombs. Throw the old one as well, why not? I need to get rid of stuff in my inventory. Oh, fuck me. God damn it. He would die just as I cast that as well. No, stop that! Oh, the stun. It lasts so long. Fuck me, that's stunned. There's another mage! I'm dead. He just fucking mages. Dude, that lack of a backstab. That fucked me up so bad, man. I'm just gonna hope that I was overthinking that fight, and the mages aren't actually gonna enjoy that encounter. So I think the best way to check for that is just to zap this guy. Not even do that. Just aggro them and just walk back here. Yeah, great. There's no wizards, I think. I don't see him anyway. Oh my god, it died so fast! Poor doggo! You're gonna need a mulberry crunch after that. Jesus, you're exhausting your mana so fast. I think he's dead. Nah, it's fine, it's fine. Oof, suddenly, man, like, guys got so much stronger. Just like pile on one guy and just kill immediately. It's rough out here. Yeah, at least the wizards didn't join. I thought for sure that those wizards would join and it was gonna be a whole thing. It's gonna be a pain in the ass, but I guess not. Ugh, it's very relieving too, because if they did, that would have been such a horrible fight. That would have been not good. I don't know what to throw away anymore, man. Like, I guess those, like, necklaces, maybe, but... I'm gonna put on this poison. That's what I'm gonna do. And I'm sure the poison's gonna last long enough for me to get value out of this. There we go! You should hide. Until before... You can just like chill out here. Oh, it's fine, it's fine. You take this one.
I shall do so.
Oh god, it's so squishy if they don't like immediately stun the hell out of you, man. Like if they get like one spell like this, it's like it's over, man. Oh, it lasts so long and they hex you with this shit, and you can't hit them. You can't hit them. It's vile. It's so gross. I guess what I need to do is get this misdirection hex as well, man. It sucks. Oh, how many types of arrows are there? Oh my god, I need these arrows too. They're so good. Hang on, I can equip those boots. Studded leather boots? Yes. Scrap? Yes. Getting arrows. Cool. I need to get in camp at some point soon and do like a gift guide and just get rid of all my gifts, man. Oh my god! I hate the inventory in this game so much. It's despicable. Why is this so much shit? Equip gloves. Trash gloves. No. Yes. Okay, cool. Alright, what are we dealing with here? Just a bunch of guys? Just a bunch of guys. I'm just gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna attack him. Alright, can I take this guy? Bunk, bunk, and dead. God, I love the backstab so much. It is like double damage, right? Oh my god. I saw a unique item and I was afraid I didn't have space for it. Encumbrance is just the shittest thing, man. I hate it. I've never been a fan of inventory, like management things, when they're like super strict about how much you can carry. I like to at least have like options, like good options to increase my inventory. And there is ways in this to increase encumbrance, but only barely. And I feel like it's very easy to miss the things that increase the inventory capacity as well. Like, I've gotten 2 from vendors, but I feel like I very easily could have missed as vendors. And it makes me worry that, like, there might be some vendors out there that could have increased my inventory space, but I just walked past them or something like that. Maybe there's some in Denerim, and I didn't want to buy anything from them because my game kept crashing in there. Hey, these dragonlings aren't too bad. They have like no HP. Can't believe none of those cultists got a dagger for Zevran though. Not one of them. I mean, come on. The cultists. The daggers are... It's like the whole identity. It's the hyperfixation. That's a friggin' wizard right there. Alright, back off, back off, back off. I said back. Why can't I walk? There we go. Back off. I didn't want to click though, I got super awkward about it. Just stun him, please. Thank you. It's a bit unresponsive sometimes. No, come on. Do the stag. I'd be doing so much more damage if Zevran had 2 weapons. I don't know why he didn't come with 2 weapons. He does have dual wield spec, I think. He does. He comes with dual weapon training, but he only has 1 weapon. It blows my mind. Hey, getting master poison making could be nice. Oh, grenades. Grenades. Yeah, it does say grenades on the poisons. There we go. It says on all levels of poisons, yeah. I'll just get max level grenades. Why not? Poisons. Whirlwind. Sure, why not? It's the final skill in the tree. That's fun. That's good. Something satisfying about finishing a tree like that. Whoa, what's going on back there? Oh, dragon links. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about wizards. Wizards have been pissing my lunch today. God, so much. There's a wizard. I see you. I can't tell if I got like my guys on like hold position sometimes, man. I do press it a lot, so I forget what state I'm in. But I swear like I toggle it back like on and off, you know, off and on, and they just keeps just standing there. Ah, frig. What is that? Oh, just some fellas. That's fine. Just little fellas, cheeky little fellas, some of them. Nothing to worry about. Oh shit. When your mana use is egregious, I need group heal right now. Wait, that dragon literally spawned on top of me. You can't do that. It was like right on top of me. You gotta be like, you know, in sight at least. Do I get bonuses to anything if I like attack from backstab? The first strike is automatic critical hit or backstab. Ah, okay, there is benefits to stealthing a lot of them. That's really nice. Yeah, so it should be like hitting stealth and element. Yeah, that's like a big hit. So really, I should have like some sort of tactics that's like, if off cooldown, into anti-stealth, you know? No, I want that. I want this thing. I have so many gifts. But I don't know who wants them. You know what? Oh no, I don't want it. I was like about to just like randomly gift them, but I don't want it. I don't want it. I wish Alistair was here so I could actually compare what armor they want. This cowl here, that can't be very good. That looks crap as hell. I'm gonna destroy it. It looks bad. Just a few shitty resistances. Oh my god! Why are there so many different rarities of these, like, enchantments, dude? Like, there's so many crafting materials. And then there's, like, so many different, like, varieties of these, enchantments, too. Journeyman, expert, novice. And then there's, like, many different types of runes. Dude, it's out of control, man. It's absurd. What did I get now? Some big boots, right? Tier 5, I can get rid of some boots.
I'm off.
Woof. Complete roll the pot to make celestial? That is what pots are there for, isn't it? You see a pot, you're like, yo, yummy. Yummy, yummy. Here I go. Getting my points. Oh, frig, it's a mage though. This Axel, I think, is a pretty good character this patch. I think Axel has gone to be a cat that has actual real damage now. Oh my god, what is this? What is this? Let me try something. Which one do we do? So, I believe I can do this. They lack critical information. And then I can do this. God, I need more bombs, man. Why don't I have any bomb recipes? Where are my bomb? I need bomb recipes right now. I need to do a complete bomb playthrough. Nothing but bombs. If I attack these guys, I'm gonna just immediately die. It's just like a big cluster of dudes. I'll be fine. The healing episode. Alright, you're hexed. Just run away. Just run away. And then stealth. Severin, no! Stealth. I run away. Nice. Good job. Good run away. You're not Hexler. You can kill some lads. Oh god, I hate that he's just got the one weapon. It feels so bad using as like single weapon attack. It just looks so slow. Dude, look at all these dragons. You got something called Whirlwind, right? Dual weapons not equipped! Oh, fuck me. All I want is a dagger, man. You can probably potion up while stealthing as well, right? If you can bomb things, you can probably potion up. No, don't stun me. That's my one weakness. I guess you can't really stealth while you're on fire, can you? It seems to break me out of it. Stop! I'm just a little guy. Stop it. I feel like I'm playing this game in a way that's making it so much harder than it has to be right now. This is rough. I didn't want it to be like this. Oh my god. I looked at what I just picked up, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna make room for this. And then I remembered. I was throwing bombs like crazy though. I'm fine. Oof. Oof. Alright. What's next? I don't like how the cave branched off though. Hello, goat.
Finally, something that could swallow.
Drake. Oh, those aren't dragonkins. These aren't babies. These are real drakes. Alright. Stealth and stealth. Oh, whatever. This will take it. Oh no, they got stuns! Oh, they got fucking overwhelmed as well. Shit. That's me done. I fucking hate overwhelm, man. Where did it even come from? It just like spawned though. I think the trick to that is to not stealth around, actually. I need someone to actually do some tanking in it. At least until a win doesn't have any aggro. Shit. God, it does so much damage! Dude, it's so busted, man. Why does it do so much damage? It just instantly kills them. I guess I can, like, is this defense as well? Yeah, defense as well. I can buff up a little bit before heading into the fight. It doesn't last super long, but at least the spells are like mostly free if you do it this way. Did literally just spawn in plain sight. And then what you do is that I think you attack him here? Zevran is doing something dumb here though. Oh, is he? Maybe he's not. I think if you attack him like here in this area here, you kinda block him so he can't actually enter, right? And then we have to like react to like a bad attack like the moment it happens. And also probably like top off as much as... Oh, there we go. There it is. Shit. Oh, they're like casting the stuns within the because of the tactics. I can't really react to it that way. What does Dreadhell do? Oh, that's a big stun. Cool, dude. A stun, please. No, he died. That's fine. I'm happy losing like a couple guys at this fight here, I think. It seems like one of those fights, you know? Much in the same way, I'm happy to have wasted a bunch of potions in order to do this as well. Dude, I'm so far away and I got fucking perma-stunned from a shout. Dude, I'm amazed he didn't die though. Stop that. Fuck, he died and I don't have a res. Stop. There we go. Okay, one guy. I can maybe win against one guy. Is that an injury? Yes. This stun here. I hate it. Whew. That could have gone worse. Well, I think we saw how much worse it could have gone. I could have just died multiple times. Though. No, I can't carry this stuff. No, I can't. Now I can get some armor. Nice. Whew. Stone Warrior Statuette. I wonder who that goes to. I guess these like crappy runes I can just toss away, right? Oh, I got an idea. Can I just make tons of poisons, maybe? And then maybe that'll... No, I want free up some space. What if I make tons of potions? That's not really gonna do it. But I used up all... Oh, I guess all the venom extractor had the same slot as venom, because I didn't have any venom, did I? What do I get rid of? I guess I don't need all these gloves. They're all the same. I don't fucking know. Get rid of the scale gloves. Get out of here. Like I don't know what set I'm gonna end up with, you know. So I wanted to have all of them just in case, like, you see what sort of set you have to build. But when it comes down to it, I can just build a set with what you know, what I've got already instead, and just try to match that, and I'll probably get it. You got a cheesecake? Delicious. Love a good cheesecake. Absolutely top tier. Top 10 type of cake. Oh, we're being attacked already. Just get out of here and hold position. Whoa! Assassins, I see. I don't want to get assassined and wizarded. Oh, hang on, how'd you see us? How'd you do that? Oops, I almost fucking stone-fisted one of my guys. Good thing that the game seems to not actually let you do that. That's a relief. Would've been pretty mad if I just hurled a big rock on one of my dudes. Please, dagger, please. Dagger me. No! Oh my god. I see they have daggers on them. This less elixir of grounding, I'm sick of it. Get rid of it. I'm gonna be sad now if the like Lightning Wizard, Lightning McQueen shows up with his car face and he casts Thunderbolt on me. I'm gonna be pretty mad. Maybe not this way. Just want to check if the other branch here has got some goodies that I may want. Do I really want goodies though? My inventory is so full. Wait a second. Maybe I should actively avoid
Have we been turned around?
any of these like
Anyone navigate
areas that
these
have
portals?
potential treasure in them, you know? Oh shit, okay, so this is probably where I want to be. That looks like where there's going to be a fight. And this is where there's going to be a goodie. I hate when it's not like signposting about this sort of thing, man. I hate it. These both look like potential areas that you might want to go in, you know? And it's so far. Each path is so far. And this path doesn't save. Oh. Archer, mage. Rogue. I hate his mages. I hate them. Let's run all the way back here. Just gonna wait for the mage to like start casting something. There we go, nice. Yeah, okay, I think, and then we save the actual stun for when they do like a nasty ability like that. That seems to work much better, rather than like getting the big channeled zap on you. Rude! Nice. Now, I don't suppose any of you have got a dagger. No! No, I just want to stab. Come on! I don't want a silver ring, I don't think. I think that's fine. Glamour charm. You know what? These things here, they're crap. I don't want them. Get them out of it. And this ring, we can take it, because Zevran, you can equip a ring. No, you can't. But Win can. There we go. Silver ring, get. Oh, hello. That looks like a really nasty trap. Let's not trip that. I'm pretty sure I definitely tripped that, but the game was feeling merciful. No thanks. Oh my fucking god. Wait, didn't I already have that? Journeyman slow run. They only stack to 3? Why? It's not like I want slow rune that bad anyway, I guess. I can just leave that behind. And it's on that journeyman rune.
I'm off.
Dude, inventory management in this is ghastly. It's so annoying. There's like a million types of enemies, of items. Each item only stacks to like 2 or 3. And you only have like a few slots to manage items for like 9 different characters. No, this is definitely where I'm supposed to go. What the heck? That looked like the conclusion of like these dungeons. There's a guy with a big old exclamation point above his head, and they all look like cultists. I'm running back to see what's in this place then. What did it say? Fuck knows. I guess it's like a optional mini boss fight there, maybe. Maybe a dragon. A drake. Drake gone. Like gone from Tekken 3. This way. If it's just one guy, fine. If there's no wizards, extra fine. I don't see anything. Oh no, never mind, I do see something. There's a bunch of cultists here. Who'd have thunk it?
Trap, so simple to see.
Cultist Overseer, sure. I think that's gotta be the big cheese. That's the guy I want to kill here. Wish I could just like splatter him with bombs. Ego! He's got the ego. Stay up there, please. He's staying. Excellent. I think we do the setup here. Alright, so first we stun him. And then we just start wailing on him. Wailing Yutani. And then we mark him. And then leg sweep. And then I probably have to engage with these guys. Yeah, I do. They're engaging. They're going. Alright, I don't have to worry about it. Excellent. Stun again. Did he turn himself into a ghost that I can't attack? Dude, coward. Spell immunity as well. Oh, this sucks. Oh, no mind. He's dying to something. I'm not quite sure what he died to, but he died. It's fine. Ooh, Drake. I definitely don't want to mess around that very much. Oh, and if the dog dies, I'm gonna have to feed it like the dog food. I don't really have very much dog food. I'd rather it didn't die. Do this. Oh, I should put some poisons. Can you have poisons as well, actually? Yeah. There we go. Now we're optimal. Optimal is shite. Another mana potion, I guess? Skip chugging. No. Well, I got reses. So I'm gonna need them because I don't have any heals. Fine, you get the dog food. Ah, goddammit. I guess I can make them still. Yeah, it was only like a mushroom I think I did for it. It's not too bad. It just looks worse because I only have a small quantity of it. I can make more with herbalism, so it's fine. Shit, I should not have done that. It was probably better that I was attacking the rogue. This is not fine. Yeah, I fucking knew it. Dude, what a horrible fight. Oh, but that Drake is stuck there on the staircase. Maybe things aren't too bad after all. No, never mind. It just give us a little time to relax and have a break. Thankfully, no one can tell me I'm just cheesing it, and also I got a little break. Oh, dog died again. That's fine. Hey, good job, Win. Soul survival. And we got some Drake skills. I can make some armor out of that. That's great. Fantastic. Oh, a sword. Arcane Warrior Sword. I don't have one of those. Oh, fucking hell, this inventory, dude. Get the dog food. Injury kits. All around. Just use that, whatever. I'd rather have equipment done. Oh my god, there's so much shit. I don't need that. Or do I?
Yes.
I don't know if I need that. I might need that. Get rid of the shield. I don't know if I need a shield or not. I probably don't.
All right.
I definitely want that sword though. Get rid of this maul, because I have this big sword instead. That's fine. Okay. Sheesh. Alright. There's more guys in the room. Are we good? We're good. Alright. Alright, let's have a little break here. I'm gonna need that after the fight. That was rough. I'll be back in like 5-ish minutes. See you all in just a moment. Be right back. See you soon. Yo, hello, I'm back. Welcome back, Aaron. Let's get back into the game. Hello. Hello. It's just two guys, it's fine. Oh yeah, I guess I'm getting used to this lightning zapping and I put in my weapons for a joke. I was just like, I'm gonna get it out of my inventory. I just wanna free up some space here. I get to see how good it is. It does a couple more damage, I guess. Not bad, something. Nice, so what's this way then here? Colgrim. This cave is sprawling and I'm very confused now because this way here seems to lead in the totally opposite way from this other way here. Also, oh no, I saw that mage there. Are they swinging at me? Not yet, oh fuck me. Alright, there's just one Drake. Just one Drake this time. As I think we send dog. Wind can go as well. But mainly we send dog. To can I target the Drake, please? There we go. Wish these guys didn't move. Maybe stun him? Maybe? No, they're just too fast for us. Ugh. That was bullshit, man. Why didn't it let me just like target the Drake though? It took so long until I was able to right click the Drake. It was like right there, but it didn't let me like attack it. That's really frustrating. Like it's right there, but like I can't attack it. I can't attack command it. That like ruined my whole plan basically. Ugh. I guess I can just like send them here and like hope that they like auto run basically. I'll say if I whoa, why did it do that? This is fine. This is not at all what I wanted, but it's probably fine. Wait a second, why didn't that hit? It said it should be like guaranteed crits out of stealth, right? And even though I have the hex, that means I should get a hit them because it's a crit. Confusing. Oh, fuck me. Dude, Winter Scrub does too much damage. I swears to you. I swears. That dog also dead? Fuck me. This is a really awkward room, apparently. Hey, it is. Not gonna reload just yet, but this room does feel like oh, there's an assassin in here as well! I was thinking like, there's not that many enemies in here. Oh my god, nah, I'm dead. I'm dead. I don't have a res. One of me is already dead. Dude. Alright. No random attacks this time, please. No random attacks. That's all I want. Also I didn't want. Also I wanted to move yet. Okay, thank you. Standing still, good. I press the hold position button and hopefully it works this time. Alright, then I target these guys and great. I can't see anything. The interface in this is kind of dire. It's fine. Alright, let's kill the mage quickly. I think as long as we kill the mage, it automatically makes the rest of the fight easier. If we can kill this assassin as well, that would be a great boon. Whoa, Wynn fucking died! Never mind. I wasn't paying attention, I was just trying to micromanage this fight, and this side of the fight, and Wynn just fucking died! You can definitely see why people would be on attempt at changing Ryu's theme, fuck so what? I don't know, like I'm not that big on Street Fighter 6's themes. They did change the themes in Street Fighter 6. All of them have gotten new themes. Traditionally, in like every Street Fighter, there have been like remixes of like the themes they had in Street Fighter 2. And they've been cool. But like, personally speaking, I like new music. I do get a bit bored of like hearing the same compositions over and over, so I was quite happy to have any new themes at all, and I think the Street Fighter 6 themes are adequate. So I don't mind too much. I feel like getting I feel like some got really bent out of shape about it, and I'm not there. Like there's like a different kind of vibe to the new music, and it's like way more kind of like background music, and I guess I could see someone being a bit annoyed with that. But I think if you're alright with like if you kind of accept the style and it's like different, I think the new music is quite good. But like it is a bit like low impact, I guess. It's a bit like backgroundy, but as long as they just give you options to the old music, I think it's good. I'm happy that they're doing some new stuff. Dude, this fight is impossible. This is horrible. I need like bombs here. If I had bombs here, this would have been different. But I think I'm gonna try one more thing. That I think will work. It's gonna be a bit daft, but it might require some precise microing, but I think this will work. Maybe sending 2 rogues is a mistake as well, actually. Alright, do this stay, this stay. And I think you send Wind back all the way. Alright. Send in Dog. Dog gets immediately stunned, of course. There we go. He has a problem. Mage is too fast. Mage is too fast. Like I just needed to get out of the room. Oh, here we go, here we go. This is what I want. There we go. And then we just pick him off while they return to the room here. It's not a crime to be making music. I guess when the expectation is a remix of a bang, you need to hit it out of the park with the replacement, or you listen with backlash. Yeah, that's like the thing with games often. I think it's a lot of media, but I think like games in particular, like it's a lot of people are very sort of reactionary in games, and like anything that's like different at all will be kind of bad inherently, and you have to like really knock it out of the park in order for it to sort of justify its existence, right? It can't just be like okay, it has to be like amazing, or it's like the worst thing ever. Where's the drakes? Where's Win? Oh fuck. Oh crap. Oh shit. Where's my friends? They're over here. Wait, where's the assassin? No, where are you going? The Drake's right here. I think it's a similar sort of thing that happened to Guilty Gear, right? With Strive, you had like you know, everyone used to use a specific style of theme in like Exiled and XX, and then in Strive you get like the full vocal tracks, and a lot of people took a lot of convincing before they liked the new tracks, and the new tracks are pretty good. Like I think the Strive soundtrack is great, but there's still a lot of people that just don't like it because it's different from what they expect. Like it's just like a lot of different genres than usual, like different than that they have vocals in general, which is quite unusual for like games in general often, but also like fighting games. And particularly Street Fighter, there's been a lot of legacy, like expectation of like the remixes in almost every game, except for 3. 3 actually has like a fairly beloved soundtrack now, but when it came out, people fucking hated it. People thought that 3 was just different, to like, and nothing was the way they expected, you know? Like, listen to Ryu's theme in Street Fighter 3. And it's not a remix at all. People thought it was shit, like not good when it came out. But now people are like, no, SF3, that's the best one. That's the only one they need. Like, like when stuff is like new and not expected, it's like the worst thing ever. But people get used to it, and then it's like people don't even think about it. Can I just get rid of this Morrigan's robes? I don't know if I should keep it. Oh, I have a silver ring. I can equip that. I think I want both of these. Let's get rid of the Viridium gloves here and get the red steel. There we go. Nice. Whew. That's the end of this path here. Where's the assassin? Did I ever kill the assassin? I can't remember if I killed the assassin. That might have been the second guy I killed, actually. I'm not sure. But I guess that's how I gotta kill some groups here. I gotta like exploit their terrible AI by just running around. Oh man. I've done it to myself here. Like, if Morgan and Alistair were here, this would have been a cakewalk, I think, compared to this. I set myself up for just a very hard time because of what I've done. It's interesting though. I've certainly never played this game like this before. This feels new and fresh. I'm being challenged here. I don't know if I need a challenge, you know? It's not like things were going particularly well before I challenged myself. I'm gonna assume I already looted these. Ah, no, I'm not. Yes. I did already loot them. We good. I think off stream, I'm gonna distribute all my gifts and get to them hell out of my inventory so I don't have to think about it again, man. Enough is enough with these gifts. Here comes the boss fight.
Stop! You will go no further!
Oh, is that so?
You have defiled our temple. You have spilled the blood of the faithful and slaughtered our young. No more! You will tell me now, intruder, why you have done all this. Why have you come here?
Tell me your name, and I'll tell you why I'm here.
I am Father Colgrim, leader and guide to the disciples of Andraste. Kill us, and you will face Andraste. She will smell our blood, and the blood of her children on you, and her wrath will be great.
Children? You mean the dragons? Is Andraste a dragon?
She is so much more! She is even more glorious than all the old gods combined. The prophet Andraste has overcome death itself, and has returned to her faithful in a form more radiant than you can imagine. Not even the Tevinter Imperium could hope to slay her now. What hope do you have?
There's a wizard in the back there. I see him. Wizard in the back. I wish to see this arisen Andraste.
None but the disciples may approach Andraste. She is not ready yet. But when the time is right, she will descend upon the nations in fiery splendor, and all will know her. But perhaps there is a way to make up for your recent transgressions.
Why do you suddenly want to cooperate with me?
It may be because I believe in second chances. All of us stumble through the darkness before being found and shown the light. Perhaps, through Andraste's mercy, her greatest enemy will become her greatest champion.
Alright, maybe we can come to some sort of agreement.
Atop this mountain lie the remains of the mortal Andraste. The urn is watched by an immortal guardian. He is trapped in the past and refuses to accept the risen Andraste. Now the ashes prevent holy Andraste from fully realizing her new form. They are a remnant of her past incarnation, and she cannot move on as long as they exist.
Go on.
The beloved needs to reclaim the ashes, to make them her own again. All it would take is a drop of her blood. Blood carries power, strength, knowledge! Through it, all the power that is held in the ashes will be returned to Our Lady.
Why have you not done this then?
The Guardian has foiled all our attempts to reach the urn. He keeps what power remains from the true Andraste. He knows the disciples, and we cannot touch him, for he draws his strength from the ashes themselves. But you could deliver Our Lady what is rightfully hers.
There is nothing but madness in his words. He is a fanatic, and a dangerous one. Be warned, he means to lead you astray.
The rewards for performing such a service would be great indeed.
Won't the Guardian know me as well?
Oh, he waits for pilgrims to come venerate the urn. He will assume that you are one of these. The task is simple. I give you a vial of the holy Andraste's blood, and you empty the vial into the ashes.
I can't carry that,
The
dude.
magic was held in the ashes will be undone, and our great lady will be freed from the shackles of her past life. Once that is done, you will have earned your place as our honored brother.
I need the ashes to cure a sick man.
You only need a small pinch for that. The rest of the power contained in the ashes must be returned to Andraste.
Putting blood in the ashes sounds like a bad idea.
Rewards will be great. You will share in Andraste's power and be blessed as one of her own.
I'm sorry, but I cannot do what you want.
Then we cannot allow you to leave here. To arms, my brethren! Andraste will grant us victory!
Okay. Oh my god, 2 wizards? Dude, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 I should have taken a deal. I should have taken a deal. What the fuck is this? Shit. How about we fucking vanish? Stealth rank not high enough? Fucking run, get out of here. No! Oh my god! I couldn't do anything. Fucking immediate death. No, run, run! You have to get out of here! Stop! Nice. Now we're talking, now we're talking, now we're talking. Oh, you all fucking hacks, dude. Just keep running, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, the wizards are staying behind! The rules. Let's keep running. Please run until the hex wears off. You can't catch me. I'm the speedy hamburger man. Oh, there's only 2 of you left. I guess the rest of you don't have the stamina to chase me. Oh, we can't run out of swings like that. Okay, fair enough. Now we know. Alright, so you should take an injury kit. Get out of here! Can you stun him? It's not. He's so fast! Was he always? Oh, it's a haste, isn't it? Whee! No, 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 no. No! Why are we all missing? Come on, hit him! Give him the bite! Can I stun him? No! Oh, I got it. It's good. It's unbelievable. Idiot Colgrim! You're not speed enough to catch me! I can't carry his stuff, no! Sand is home from the top of the mountain overlooking the village of Haven to summon the High Dragon. I don't want to do that. Benny Hill MP3. Indeed. Wait, I don't suppose I can equip ammo, can I? No, I can't. No, I can. You do this, then you swap sets. Destroy that. Put it up. Yeah, put it in the bow. Yeah, sick. Then there we go. Nice. Cool. Zevran, what do you have? Crappy bow? And Tevan bow. Oh, I knew it. He wants their Tevan shoes, doesn't he? Ice arrows? Nice. Inventory freed up. Take the crap. Sick nasty. Now we just need to deal with the wizards. Is it the haste that's making me move so fast? It just says burns attack speed. I feel really fast. There we go. The 2 mages. I guess I should probably have like a guy on each mage. This. You're not moving back, are you? You are. Stop that. Hold position. Also, you can stand a little bit ahead of the mages actually, like that. There you go. Peekaboo. Oh god, I can't right click the ground very easily. There we go. Oh shit, I did not mean to unstealth it. That's fine. Oh, it's not fine. I got hit by all the shit because of that. Oh, that sucks. Oh, I did not mean to hit unstealth. They just have stealth on different buttons. Oh, he's dead! I fucking hate mages. Dude, they can just insta kill you. Why? I fucking hate mages. They're so broken. It's fine. Just run over here. They could rest, right? They'll grow back, right? The dog is so fast. Oh no, because the corpses are too close to the mages. I'm not leaving combat, am I? Bummer. Fine. I'll try to aggro them with the dog. Never stun them. But they'll fucking regen as well. No, why is wind? I'm fucking reloading. I'm reloading. It's so annoying to micro the guy sometimes, man. Like the controls are just kind of ass to put it nicely. Right, don't press stealth this time. Don't do it. I gotta move this, man. This side, don't do it again. There we go. Okay. No stealthies. First aggro. No, what are you doing? No, stop. Wait, am I? Oh. Oh, these guys gonna refuse to leave the room, don't they? He doesn't want to step like here. Blast! Blasted! Blast! Great. There we go. Got him. Alright, get the back steps, please. Oh, he got the hex off though. That sucks. But they didn't hit the rogues. That's what matters. Now they got the rogues. What do you got? Oh no, that's a different hex though. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Win what? Oh, I had hold position on. Motherfucker. Despicable. Dog, why are you coming back here? Attack him! Okay, we're fine. Why are the controls so... It's not even the controls, that was just the AI. AI is just despicable. Oh man, that's funny. That's definitely how that fight's supposed to go. It's a dragon. It's a lazy dragon. Sleepy. Won't you? I guess if I want to fight that thing, I have to blow the horn.
Hi, dragon. We're not planning on actually fighting it, are we? Couldn't we just sneak around it?
Yeah, I think it's too early to fight the dragon, right? Oh, I broke the format with the save here. Yeah. It's called Stream 7, not Save 7. What the heck? I'll just skip the save then, don't I? Okay. We made it.
Yes.
That were a decent party. I can actually fight things though. Cleanse area? Oh, that's nice. And oh, I need dex. That should level dex a little bit. Or I have just a lot of strength. There we go. We can work on that. At least you got this one now. I think overpower is quite good. Makes sense to go into shield stuff, I think I would do want to cleanse area though, because of all the friggin' hexes I'm getting. You know, they're nasty as well. I guess that's another good reason to use Alistair, right? Virulent walking bomb would be nice. Ooh, force field sounds quite nice for CC. The mages are just so good. So good. I bet I don't even have to like sneak around the dragon even, anyway. Oh, what's that? Oh, also I could go on these other fellas. I haven't checked the armor in a while, so I can actually give them something new probably. Yeah, I can. I think the Temple armor, yeah, Temple armor is really good. I don't need to replace that. Give some boots. I can give him... Oh, I need strength for those. I had a lot of strength. Get rid of that. I don't need these boots anymore because I got these two here. So get rid of that. What are your gloves like? Tier 3. Oh, wow, okay. How about you take these ones then? There you go. And then you get rid of the tier 3. Probably get rid of these ones, I guess. Cool. Studio Blizzard acquired to work on WoW last year called Proletariat, tried to unionize and the boss got mad. Of course it did. Yeah, Proletariat worked on a battle royale before, I think. Called, was it called Spellbound? I think it was exclusive on Epic. It was alright, but it was another battle royale, so you know how it is. You kind of gotta separate yourself a lot from the pack here to be interesting at all as a battle royale. Like the only battle royale I was like even like thought about maybe playing lately is what's the one called? The wrestling one. That one looks a bit different than the others, so. That's like the Rumbleverse, that's like the only one I've thought about. Like, maybe I could play that, but... Like... There already is, like, Apex, you know? There already is, like, Fortnite and that sort of stuff. So I don't really need, like, another one. I'm gonna try find a dragon just to see what happens. I mean why not? We're here. Bonk. Ow. Alistair, fight the dragon, please. Thank you. Probably spread around the dragon as well, that'd be good. Oh, Alistair. No, not Alistair. Wind died. And the dragon is doing totally fine. Yeah, it's too early for the dragon. I'll see how it goes still. Yeah. There's too much shit going on. There's just too much shit. Like if you can just immediately kill half and parted like that. I feel like we just save it for another time, right? I can, yeah, like, I think since we're in this area here, and I can, like, change my party and stuff, I feel like I can probably, like, fast travel here fairly conveniently, right? The gauntlet. Oh, I guess that was the guardian there. And that guardian doesn't let the others pass, does it? I imagine that's the guardian that we're talking about. No, this is the Guardian. It's just a guy called Guardian.
Not like the rest.
Leather gloves, tier 4. Don't need that. I'll take 2.
Rest of the temple. This part is unblemished, untouched.
Are you sure about that? It looks pretty rough shape to me. You must be the Guardian.
Yes. I am the Guardian of the Ashes. I have waited years for this.
Why have you been there for so long?
It has been my duty, my life, to protect the urn and prepare the way for the faithful who come to revere Andraste. For years beyond counting have I been here, and shall I remain until my task is done and the Imperium has crumbled into the sea.
The Imperium is no longer as powerful as it once was.
Ah, is it not? Then perhaps this is the beginning of the end.
Who are the men who have taken over the rest of the temple?
When my brethren and I carried Andraste from Tevinter to this sanctuary, we vowed to forever revere her memory and guard her. I have watched generations of my brethren take up the mantle of their fathers. For centuries they did this, unwavering, joyful in their appointed task. But now they have lost their way. They have forgotten Andraste and their promise.
So the dragon is not Andraste then?
No. Our Andraste has gone to the Maker's side. She will not return. The dragon is a fearsome creature.
The fort that was Andraste. Yeah, not the guardian. Yeah.
The absent Maker and his silent Andraste. A true believer would not require audacious displays of power.
I would like to see the end.
You have come to honor Andraste, and you shall, if you prove yourself worthy.
I need the ashes to cure a noble man.
Still, you must prove yourself worthy. It is not my place to decide your worthiness. The gauntlet does that. If you are found worthy, you will see the urn and be allowed to take a small pinch of the ashes for yourself. If not...
Alright, let's get this over with them.
Before you go, there is something I must ask. I see that the path that led you here was not easy. There is suffering in your past. Your suffering, and the suffering of others. By the time you reached Shiane, she was broken, brutalized. You were too late. Tell me, Pilgrim, did you fail Shiane?
I don't remember these guys at all. No, Warren is the villain, not me.
Then you do not dwell on past mistakes. Neither yours, nor someone else's.
It's easy for others to judge what you've done in hindsight, but it doesn't make it any better.
One wonders what this Guardian's purpose is. Be wary of his traps.
It is sometimes difficult to see how our actions affect an outcome. But that does not mean our actions had no effect.
And what of those that follow you? Alistair, Knight, and Warden. You wonder if things would have been different if you were with Duncan on the battlefield. You could have shielded him from the killing blow. You wonder, don't you, if you should have died and not him?
Yes. If Duncan had been saved and not me, everything would be better. If I just had the chance, maybe I...
Ask your question, Guardian. I am ready.
You are ever the advisor, ready with a word of wisdom. Do you wonder if you spout only platitudes, burned into your mind in the distant past? Perhaps you are only a tool, used to spread the word of the Circle and the Chantry. Does doubt ever chip away at your truths?
You frame the statement in the form of a question, yet you already know our answers. There is no sense in hiding, is there? Yes, I do doubt at times. Only the fool is completely certain of himself.
And you, Morrigan, Flemeth's daughter, what?
Begone, spirit. I will not play your game.
Be gone, long one.
I will respect your wishes.
Oh, that's nice.
The way is open. Good luck, and may you find what you seek.
Thank you. How much of the gauntlet is there? I thought the gauntlet might be more than just like a fight and then we win. It might be a whole thing. So maybe we leave it up and then we take on the gauntlet next time. It feels kind of natural, doesn't it? Something to look forward to. I think I like that idea. Because I don't know what's gonna be. It might be like a boss fight, it might be many boss fights, it might be many puzzles, probably a lot of dialogue. There was just a lot of dialogue there. I think it makes sense to me at least to save some of this for next stream. And then we have the we know for sure that we have the gauntlet to look forward to next time. Oh yeah, I was wondering like if I should have replaced the shield. Nah, this shield is pretty good. I might be keeping the shield. Alright. The game is saved. I'll save again, just in case. I'm a double saver kind of guy. I'm cool done. Thank you all for coming to stream, everyone. I had a great time. The game was fun to tonight. It was chaotic, but in a different, totally better way. At least the game didn't break constantly. It was goofy, but I had a good time. I appreciate all of you coming to hang out. Thank you very much. We'll stream next on Tuesday, unless I have some sort of silly little stream for silly little guys in interim. Until then, there's a good chance for that. Let's see. I'll let you all know then if I do a stream. So for now, cheers everyone. Take it easy. See you next time. Bye bye. Have a good one.